Ladies and gentlemen, I bring to you my final 2024 video. Hey guys, Otaku here, back with another and final competitive Yu-Gi-Oh video for 2024. So 2024 has been a big year for my channel. I started the year at 1,500 subscribers, and as of like a week and a half ago, we broke 2K. So thank you all for the amazing support. Now it's probably to go without saying that most of my support on this channel has come from my Chimera related videos. And to those who are here for the Chimera videos, I do apologize for not making very many of those lately. But also at the same time, I appreciate that you stuck around despite the fact that I haven't been really giving Chimera too much love lately, but simply I've just been having a lot of fun with Malice, and that's kind of my go-to deck for this upcoming format. But as a big thanks to those who are here for my Chimera videos, I want to give you one final send-off before we go into the next year. And what better way to do it than giving you all another Chimera video. Now, as the title says, this is my Master Duel build video. Keep in mind, I do not play Master Duel very often. I think I play Master Duel a total of like 3 to 4 times a month, maybe once a week, when I really just have nothing better to be doing. So when it comes down to the actual meta, I obviously know that like Tenpai is running rampant, but overall, I don't really know the meta in Master Duel. I'm only Platinum 1, close to getting promoted to Masters. However, before we do jump on into the Master Duel deck profile, I have noticed that a great deal of you that are currently watching this video are not subscribed to the channel. So consider subscribing to the channel, liking the video, but also hitting that bell button for future notifications on when I upload future content. But also, let me know in the comments below if you want to see more Master Duel related content. Alright, so Chimera, when it comes to Master Duel, has been interesting. It's a deck that I have been playing since the Chimera cards have come out. However, I was playing Branded Chimera when it first came out, and then Branded kind of got neutered with Branded Fusion going to 1 and all that other stuff. And then for the longest time, Chimera just wasn't really able to compete because we weren't getting the new stuff that came out in Legacy Destruction, like Nightmare Apprentice and Diabells. And then finally, they released the Melodious cards. For those who are unaware, when the Melodious cards came out in Legacy of Destruction, the TCG, it became somewhat of an engine in a lot of decks, Chimera being no exception. The deck has some really cool synchronicities with the Melodious package and vice versa. So I decided, yeah, we're going to bring the Melodious package into Chimera in Master Duel. And then they finally released Nightmare Apprentice and Diabells like a month ago. So to start, we are going to be playing Tao the Chanter. I really want to cut this card. I don't play it in the TCG, and I highly recommend you don't play it in the TCG, but in Master Duel, there are just random moments that, like, you want to use Tao to actually end on Diabells, but the problem is Tao in of himself is a bit of a brick. If you open him, you just don't like it, but overall, I still run him just kind of like I had one flex spot in the deck. I could technically put a second call by the grave, but I just haven't crafted one just yet. But we are running one Tao the Chanter. We are running the Edgent package. This is a package that if you have been in the channel long enough, you know I really don't like this package. It is very high potential to be very strong, and if you don't see too many pieces of it in your opening hand, you are just going to pop off. But it also has a very high potential of bricking. If you see probably 2 pieces of this engine, you probably just are not doing very well. It really depends on the pieces you see. But overall, we are playing the 2 Edgem Chains, we are playing the 3 Patchwork, and the 2 Polys. As for the Melodious engine, we are playing the 1 Tam Tam, because if this card is special summoned while you control a Melodious monster, you can search Poly. That is not a once per turn, and you can fetch it out of your deck or your graveyard, which means if you've already expended both Polys and you special summon this, you can search the Poly out of your graveyard. Not to mention that if it is used as a fusion material, it can target a Melodious monster on the field, lower its attack, and burn your opponent for 500 damage. Funny enough, that is also not a once per turn. If you are sequencing correctly and doing your combo correctly, you can burn your opponent for like 2k damage on your turn. All you need to do is just use Ostinato, and this thing's going to burn for 2k total. Again, it's not a once per turn, so even searching the Poly is not a once per turn. You can keep fetching Poly back out of your graveyard, which is like really freaking strong. We run 3 Gazelle because then he searches the Chimera Fusion or the Baphomet. Until we get the Fiendsmith cards in Master Duel, Gazelle probably isn't like the best of the 2 between him and Sword Knight, but Sword Knight is also a scenario where if he gets ashed, you no longer have a body on board, whereas like Gazelle, if he gets ashed, you still have the body on board at least. But Gazelle also is like if you already own Chimera Fusion and they go to Imperm you, you can chain Chimera Fusion, dodge Imperm, beta card out essentially. So I think Gazelle is still like the better of the 2. We're running 3 of the Kodal. He's just like your searcher. Droll, I know for a fact, is not like super popular in Master Duel currently, so you don't have to worry too much about playing into Droll in Master Duel. So like Cornfield Kodal is just like 1 card starter, baits out Ash if it needs to. 3 Sword Knight. I'm considering cutting this down to 2. But overall, like, if you just see them and they don't have Ash, you just kind of win. I'm still only playing the one Berfomet. I've been doing this in the TCG, but Berfomet is like a brick, essentially. He's a level 5 fiend. You never want to see him in your opening hand, and sometimes you just don't want to use his graveyard effect right away. We're not playing Muckraker, spoiler alert. But if we had played Muckraker, then putting him in the grave would be just fine. But overall, you just don't want to see this in your opening hand because it could be one more dead card that you do not need. We're only playing 2 of the Nightmare Apprentice. We could be playing 3. I just needed to downsize on 1 more card because we wanted to cut it down to an even 40. And Nightmare Apprentice isn't like super like 1-card starter in this deck. But overall, like, you really only need the 2. She's super searchable off of like the Gazelle fusion effect. Which 9 times out of 10 you're getting to Gazelle one way or another, but then we are running the 1 of the Diabells. Diabells is a unit in Master Duel. When we are in a best of 1 format, if you go first and you summon Diabells, then like they have to focus a lot of resources in getting her off the board, which is going to be difficult because she is a anti-spell fragrance essentially. But also, like, the cool thing about Chimera as a whole as a deck is that, and I've been saying this in the TCG for a while, if the deck gets to put up its full end board and is just allowed to pop off and it's going first, they are going to win. There is no way to crack their board unless you have very, very specific situations, because Diabells is just a unit, and then, like, the rest of the board plus the hand rip, it is very hard to break a Chimera board if they are allowed to pop off. So, like, in a best of 1 format, Chimera just kind of excels pretty well because of this fact. But Diabells, obviously, if they set a card, you pop it. You can also play like Rabbit plus Azaroon. I personally do not, because the extra deck is a little tight thanks to the Melodious package, but you can also do that. Rabbit plus Diabells is a pretty good combo, so that's perfectly up to you. We are playing the 3 Refrain. This is kind of like, you need to run 3 of this simply because the line that you go for ends up putting all 3 in the graveyard. You need to have some in the extra deck, so Vortex Dragon is online. And then on top of that, like, this can still bridge you into stuff. Like, if you don't open Ostinato and you open Refrain, there is still a world where you can summon Refrain, search out the couplet, search out the Concerto, and then Concerto will fusion into Bacha summon the Tam, and then you search to Poly, essentially. But then on top of that, you link those 2 away for, like, Cross Sheep, and then Concerto draws you a card. Bacha will special summon, like, something from the graveyard. So it's like, it's not all for loss if you don't open Ostinato and you open Refrain. Refrain does unfortunately consume your normal summon, which is competing for the Gazelle and the Mirror Sword Knight, so it conflicts a little bit. But overall, I think running this at 3 is still a must. Then we run the 1 of the Couplet. This, you don't need to see more than this. It's essentially Poplar. If you search it off of like Refrain, then you can special a Melodious from the graveyard, and then when you scale it, you can search out a Melodious Spell or Trap, and then, which is always Concerto. Just overall, you don't need to see more than 1 of this. It's kind of a brick otherwise. 3 of the Ostinato. This card reads that if it resolves, it wins the game, essentially. If this resolves, you're going to set up an end board just from Ostinato, not including the Chimera stuff, but if you just resolve Ostinato, you will be ending on a 3-material Appaloosa and an Omni-Negate Vortex Dragon, not including everything else that the Chimera package is going to be doing. So overall, if this card resolved, it wins the game. Like I said, 3 Fright for Patchwork, 1 of the Concerto. We don't need to be running more than 1 of this. It's really good just to be able to use to make the second Bacha, or to just make 1 Bacha in general. And then also, when Bacha hits the graveyard, you're going to draw a card. So it's draw power. 3 Super Poly. On the chance that we end up having to go second, Chimera does struggle a little bit going second against certain decks. But Super Poly just is good for breaking boards. We are running the Garua and the Dracostapelia and the Mud Dragon. 1 called by, you can up this to 2 and cut like Tau or cut a Mirror Sword Knight. Perfectly up to you. 3 Droplet, again, just for more going second potential. One thing to note is that you cannot send your scales to the graveyard. That's just common game mechanic, because when the scales hit the grave, they actually go to the extra deck, which means Droplet by game mechanic cannot send your scales. So make sure you don't mess up doing that. And then 3 Chimera Fusion, which is just like the best card in our deck. Quick play Poly, essentially, so you can use it to dodge Imperm, Veiler, Mourner. But overall, the problem that I always had with Chimera Fusion, even since the release of Chimera, is that it needs a Beast or a Fiend as material, which can cause problems down the line. As for the extra deck, we are running 1 Mud Dragon and 1 Garua, and then 1 Dragostapelia. These are like what people would call the blowjob brothers. These are just the super poly targets. Like, just overall, they're just here to help break boards. Garua also, like, you can make Garua naturally or Mud Dragon naturally with like poly or Chimera Fusion, depending on what you're trying to make, and then use Garua to like draw a card by linking it away or something. We do run 1 of Chimera. This is, as I've said 1,000 times in other Chimera videos, this card is essentially just here to get a hand rip and then revive from the graveyard, with usually like Baphomet or Diabells, to get them out of the graveyard on your opponent's turn, get them onto the board. Not as flexible as the next monster. We are running 2 Baphomet because this is the most flexible, making as fusion material. I don't really have to explain this to people who have been here for a while, but if you want to get on an end board that ends on like Diabells, then you search out Diabells with like Nightmare Apprentice or Gazelle's fusion effect, and then you fuse away Diabells and the normal Chimera to make the Baphomet, and then Baphomet dump the Tau, revive the Diabells, so that way you end on Diabells on your turn, so that way you don't have to proc like Thrust in your opponent's draw phase to be able to summon the Diabells, but also so that way they can't like use certain card effects to be able to like banish it, like Crow or Bestials. Bestials are really popular. Obviously they'd still be able to do that on your turn, but then if that does come down to that, then you can link away the Baphomet and revive the Diabells from the banish pile. So it's not like super horrible, but the main thing you're dodging here is like if they open called by, they can't called by your Diabells, and then Diabells is just shut off even if you revive it from the banish pile. So ending on Diabells is a lot more beneficial than summoning it on your opponent's turn, but then also you just save the Chimera for if they get the Diabells off the board, you can re-put her on the board, or you can revive Sword Knight or revive Baphomet. Like, there's a lot more application that you don't want to waste Chimera's graveyard effect. And then for the last like Chimera stuff, we are running the Illusion Beast because this is the OTK that we use to just end the game essentially. Chimera really excels at not having to break full boards. We only have to break half a board, and then we just kill the other half by summoning this, which can attack each time for each material that was used. And then also the monster attacks become 0, effects are negated permanently. The Magnum Reliever, this is actually a really good end board piece. There's a lot of cool ways to end on this. This also helps us recycle poly, so that way if both polys are out of the deck, because, you know, we search it off of Tam Tam and Patchwork, that if both the polys are out of the deck, then we can put one back into the deck so that the other Patchwork is live if we draw into it on the crackback. We also have Guardian Chimera to help break boards, but also help prevent boards from being established, draw more cards, etc., etc. As for the Melodious engine, which is pretty much everything else, we are running the Vortex Dragon. We make this by linking away the Absolute Dragon. This is just an Omni-Negate. You just put back a Pendulum monster in your extra deck back into the main deck, and then negate anything, essentially. This card's just crazy strong. 2 Bacha. We run the 1, obviously, to do full combo, but we run the second one because it is level 7. So that way we can make the Absolute Dragon, because it is a rank 7. So you basically summon both of these off of the Ostinato combo, and then you just go into Absolute Dragon plus the body that you revived off of, or you summoned off the first Bacha, and then you just from there link it away to make Cross Sheep. Basically the combo is like you end up linking away the Absolute and a monster to make Cross Sheep, and then Cross Sheep will then on New Chain revive, because you're going to summon the Vortex in the zone that it points to, and then you're going to summon a monster off of the Bacha's graveyard effect into the other zone, and then Cross Sheep will revive another level 4. We can also use Cross Sheep. It is a beast, so we can use it as fusion material to make the Chimera end of the deck. We can also use it to revive Mere Sword Knight if necessary. Like, Cross Sheep has a lot of application even in just regular Chimera. And then Appaloosa. I don't really need to talk about Appaloosa. Like I said, due to the normal combo off of Ostinato, you are ending on Omni-Negate Vortex plus Appaloosa, meaning you don't have to worry about Nib, and then you can save yourself from other hand traps if they just hold them that long. If they're not ashing Ostinato, they just lose, essentially. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to show off the power of the deck. I'm going to do like 2 or 3 replays here at the end of the video, and then I'll see you all after the replays. So let's have a look at how this deck performs. All right, so that is the list. I wanted to show you guys at least one replay of going first and one replay going second, even though the combos looked very similar, and I wasn't a big fan of the pendulum matchup, but I was pressed for time to get this video out, so I had to just kind of go with it. But that is all I have for you guys today. I want to once again thank you all for the amazing support that you have shown me and my channel in 2024, and hopefully we can continue to see this growth and support going into 2025. I don't know how much Chimera related content I have planned for 2025, minus when Supreme Darkness comes out in early January, but overall, I just hope that we can continue to see growth in not only this community, but just the channel overall. But for the final time this year, I want to thank you all for watching this video. Don't forget to leave a like on the video, subscribe, and also comment if you want to see more Master Duel related content going into 2025. But with that, I will see you all next year. See ya!